Do you wait for another person as well for 1 or 2 minutes?
はい、本日はですね、SIUK のウェビナーに、参加いただきましてありがとうございます。本日はですね、バーススパ大学の、教育学部オンラインセミナー、バーススパ大学で学ぶ、5つの理由というテーマで、バーススパ大学の方から、担当官の方がお越しいただいておりますので、お話を、していただきます。でご質問がある方はですね、チャットボックス、もしくはYouTube でもですね、ライブストリームで映しておりますので、ご質問がある方はチャットボックス等でご質問をしていただけたらと思います。プレゼンテーションが終わりましたら、こちらの方で読み上げをして、ご質問に答えていただきたいと思いますので、よろしくお願いいたします。はい。それでは、今からプレゼンテーションを始めていきたいと思います。So, could you start your presentation?
Thank you. Thank you. Let's introduce ourselves first. So first of all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us in the world today. Welcome to Bath Spa and welcome to the School of Education. It is truly a unique place, and I am privileged to be the head of the School of Education and lead such a wonderful team. I have with me my colleague, Roisin. Roisin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kyriaki. My name is Roisin Ní and I'm the head or the program lead for the postgraduate programs we run in the School of Education. And I think just as a point of interest for our for those watching this evening or whenever you're watching this, I have worked for 2 years in Japan and have very fond memories of the place, although my Japanese is extremely rusty because it's 2 years ago or 20 years ago, nearly 22 years ago. But looking forward to today.
Wonderful, thank you. I will now share my screen and we will do a short presentation, after which we'll be very happy to answer any questions. So let me do that now. Hopefully you can all see my screen now. So this is a picture of our wonderful campus, one of our wonderful campuses at Bath Spa University. But moving on, for many of you, this is a big step towards the future that you want to create. Education is such an important topic, and some of you might have a very clear idea of what you'd like to do. Whereas others, for you, it might be the first steps that you're taking into this field. But wherever you're at, don't worry at all. Education is such a wonderful and broad topic that we're happy to help you discover an aspect that really speaks to you. But you'll agree with me that this is an absolutely wonderful time to be studying education. I've been in higher education for over 25 years. And never have I seen the pace of change be so huge. We've had entire universities and schools and institutions transfer online. There's been a newfound respect for the teaching profession, and many are recognized as key workers. The importance of schooling during this time and its role in addressing inequalities in our society, it has come to the fore again. And even the role of exams, the importance of them, and new policies being written almost daily. So it's a wonderful time to study education, whether it's at undergraduate level or postgraduate level. We are based, our main campus is at Newton Park, and we have been there for over 70 years delivering teacher education. Newton Park is based Newton Park campus is based just on the outskirts of Bath, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And our buildings are a combination of old and new. So your learning environment may be in very historic buildings. We even have a small castle on campus, but it might be in one of our sleek and modern buildings as well. It's truly a wonderful campus to work and study. We have been here on that campus since 1946, and we have been educating teachers for over 70 years. Initially, this was to address the shortage of teachers after the Second World War. But today, globally, there is still a shortage of teachers. So it is one of those professions where there will always be great employment prospects for all our students. Throughout our history, though, our values have remained the same and they have been constant. We work with many, many partners because we believe in providing an authentic learning experience to our students. So in Bath, in our region, we work with over 400 schools and early year settings and colleges and higher education institutions. But also we make links with colleagues around the world in order to deliver the best possible, highest quality education and research in the field of education. So for example, we have a lovely long-standing partnership with an institution in China, where their final year students come to us. They do their final year at Bath Spa and then progress on to masters. But we also have partnerships around the world, emerging partnerships around the world. The United Arab Emirates, we have colleagues and we send students to places in Spain, in Nepal, in Zambia. So there are so many opportunities to link globally while you are studying education and really understand what it means in a number of different contexts. Moving on, we truly believe that education and educators has the power to change the world. So we see each and every one of our students as change agents. We have a very strong social justice agenda, as I mentioned before, addressing the inequalities that we find in our societies. But also education is one of those fields where you can work in a number of different professions. So you may wish to become a teacher with very young children. You may want to be in a secondary school. You may want to lead an educational institution. You can also be a learning mentor. You may wish to work in the museum and gallery and heritage sectors. You may want to be an educational psychologist, a counselor. You can work in rehabilitation services in prison education. You can work with charities, working on educating people out of poverty and working in the international development field. You could be a trainer, a speech therapist, and work in publishing. So the opportunities are vast. Education is one of those wonderful disciplines that enables progression into a number of different employment routes. However, at the same time, you're going to be influencing young lives as an educator, as a teacher, or another profession. But we know that you too will be transformed through your studies, irrespective of whether you're doing this at undergraduate level or postgraduate level. Education has the power to transform, and you will change from being students to being professionals. Or if you're already a professional, to being an expert in a particular field. So we have support structures in place at our university to enable you to make that personal and very meaningful transformation. So we have personal tutors that you will be allocated. We have a number of program leaders, and Roisin is the program leader for our postgraduate provision. Below the program leaders, we have award leaders. So there's an award leader per program that will oversee progress and oversee your studies. We have a colleague appointed as a student voice lead who works very closely with our student representative community to ensure that we're truly do this in partnership, really listen to our students, but together find solutions for the future. And that's just within the School of Education. Across the university, we have a number of services, and here I've only picked up a couple of them. We have a learning and writing center, which will help you and provide even one-to-one support on developing your academic skills and your academic writing, but also our student well-being services that provide a host of support for colleagues on mental health, on learning disabilities, on any support you might need. They may be able to direct you to finance. They will be able to signpost you to a number of different support services across the university. So you will be very well supported if you choose to come to us. The one thing that I think want to get across here today is that we are extremely passionate, and it is passion that has brought us here. And we're passionate about everything that we do. So for example, I've put here some of the wonderful things that we are recognized for. So BASPA University as an institution over this last, in the last league tables, we are 12th nationally in the UK for value added. And what that means is that we'll take students from wherever they are and add that extra value. So the starting point is always you. It is always our students. And we do that very well, and hence we're recognized in this league table. In the School of Education specifically, we are in the top quartile for graduate prospects, for employment opportunities. And many of our students go straight into employment or to further study after they leave university. If you're wanting to become a teacher with a qualified teacher status, then we have a wonderful postgraduate program, and we are deemed outstanding by the regulator. Our regulator is called Ofsted, and we're deemed an outstanding provider, which means if you are training to become a teacher according to the English standards, then this is one of the best places to do that. But we have been in the education sector for many years. So we were one of the founding members to first have an education degree over 20 years ago, and which also means that we have the expertise. So for example, we've written the Student's Guide to Education Studies, now in its 4th edition. And it's a book that is being studied in a number of UK universities, but is written by our academics, and we're very proud of that. And you'll see a number of accolades at the bottom, and one that we're particularly proud of is the Bath Life Award. We were seen as a finalist, and what that really means, that recognizes the fact that we contribute to our region. So many of our schools in the region are staffed with BASPA teachers. So it is very much our way of giving back to society and really making a difference to the young people in our region. Moving on from there, we also do carry out research. So although we're a teaching focused institution, our teaching is very much research led and research informed. So we, in the School of Education, as well as the university research centres in the School of Education, we have our own 4 research centres. And we've been highly successful recently. We've attracted significant funding for a Disabled People's Research Network. We have produced a number of outputs for our Research Excellence Framework Assessment. That's where the government assesses the quality of our teaching to see whether it is national or international standard. And we have impact case studies, which means that our research has a real world impact. And these are 3 of the areas where we have impacted over this last cycle. So creative pedagogies, teacher assessment, whole school systems and models, as well as disadvantaged learners. So research is important to us. And what I've done here in this next slide is I've outlined the 4 research centers within the school. However, even within these research centers, the diversity of what we look at is enormous. So in the following slide, I've picked out one of the research centers, and here are just some of the publications that are coming out of that. And you'll see that they are diverse. So we have research in forest and outdoor learning. We are looking at comparative studies between higher education systems. We're looking at refugee families and education and in that area, and well-being and identity of school leaders. This last publication was actually by one of our third-year students, our final year students. So even our students are very well established within our research ethos. And we're very proud of that. So our teaching is up to date and research informed. In our undergraduate area, and I know I'm just going to whiz through these programs, we have the following offer. So we have a number of programs. The first 5 that you'll see there are within our school, but we also have a program, a fairly new program, on educational psychology that is offered by our sister school, our School of Sciences. So if you're interested in that specific field, do go and look on their website. But I'm going to quickly speak about the 5 that we have here. So the first one that I'd like to introduce you to is our BA Early Childhood Studies. This is a wonderful program led expertly by my colleagues, Nicole Jameson and Becky Digby. Their doctorates are both within the early childhood sector. And you'll see that the student satisfaction is very high, and so is the employment rates. This particular degree looks at developing a critical understanding for a multidisciplinary perspective of childhood, of babies, of children, and of families, of support networks, and the rights of children and their voices. So it's very much child-centric, this particular degree, and the way that you'll get engaged with the discipline of education. The next degree on here is the BA Honors Education Studies, led by Dr. Ting Huan, and also the program leader, Vicki Bennett. Now, this one is one of our broadest degrees. So it focuses on exploring education and the big debates in education from the various perspectives of philosophy, of sociology, of history. And also it brings in the big debates internationally. So it is one of our broadest degrees, and enables you to understand education from so many different perspectives. BA Honors Education Primary and Early Years are also expertly led by my colleagues, Dr. Ellie West and Dr. Jenny Hatley. Now, this particular degree aims to develop an understanding of the wider debates in education, in primary education specifically, both nationally and internationally. So although I mentioned the early childhood studies is very much about the child up to the age of about 5, this particular degree is about the child, but the child within the context, within the setting. So it's very much about schools. It's about schools, about classrooms, about the policies, about the curriculum design, about the impact of the schooling system on children specifically in primary school. And there's a sister award to this, if you like, which is very much about the secondary school. So there's lots of co-teaching on these 2 awards, these 2 programs. But the BA Honors Education Secondary is also led by the same people, but the focus is more on secondary schools, on that much older age group. And finally, our brand new offer for this year is our accelerated degree. And what that is, it's a full BA Honors education degree, but it's condensed within 2 years. And the reason we've done that is for those that may wish to qualify as teachers much quicker. So this will enable them to do a 2-year full BA plus a Pgce, or they can acquire a master's again within a 3-year period rather than extending their studies, which may appeal to international students as well. So this particular one, we've really gone innovative. We take account of all the summer period as well. There's less downtime in this degree, but it has an innovative curriculum design in that we have worked with the cultural and heritage industries. We've worked with the Holborn Museum. We've worked with organizations such as Transform Society, and we've also worked with head teachers in schools to ensure that we offer a curriculum that is really applied and can really make a difference. Even while you're a student, you can really make a difference to society through our research challenges. So it's an exciting degree. Dr. Becky Digby is leading on that one. The unique points very quickly from all our undergraduate degrees are that we have no exams, firstly. So everything is, all our assessments, you are assessed on everything. However, the assessments are more coursework based. They are more presentation based. They may be portfolios. They may be, there's a variety of assessment methods that we use. And we do that partly to introduce you firsthand experience to the various assessment methods in education, but also we know very well that when you go out in the workplace, you will not be assessed by exams. You will be assessed, you will be asked to demonstrate these critical skills and you know, writing reports and doing presentations and collecting evidence and analyzing evidence. All our programs have placement opportunities, which means that you will be in schools regularly. So 1 day a week for one of your modules, you'll be in a school, you'll be able to observe the practice, you'll be able to see the children, you'll be able to engage with the teachers and question and what's going on, and then come back into the university and make sense of what you learned through the academic and the research side of things. But we tend to bring theory and practice together. There's a focus on careers, as I said. We have international trips, and we ensure that we embed all the graduate skills for the 21st century that you might need. So, but if you're interested in becoming a qualified teacher, as I said previously, you need a Pgce, a postgraduate certificate in education. And that comes with qualified teacher status. So if you already have an undergraduate degree and would like to be a qualified teacher in the English system, then this is the offer for you. It is a 1-year degree. 2/3 of it is actually training in schools in a number of our the hundreds of partners that we have. You'll have an opportunity to be in schools regularly with a workplace mentor as well as an academic tutor in the university. And after that, successful completion of that degree, you'll be able to be a qualified teacher. So just to briefly outline, we have undergraduate 3-year degrees as well as undergraduate 2-year degrees, which means you can qualify as a teacher within 3 years if you so wish, or within 4 years. And if you then want, you can top it up. So your Pgce becomes a master's, because a Pgce itself is 1/3 of a master's degree. So we have a top up to that. And then if you want, you can progress to doctoral studies. But similarly, if you do not want to be a qualified teacher in the English system, then again, as I said before, there's the opportunity to take a master's degree and progress onto PhD studies, either acquire an undergrad and postgrad within 3 years or within 4 years. But I think at this point, I'd like to pass on to my colleague Roisin, who will focus more on the postgraduate provision that we offer. So Roisin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kyriaki. In the School of Education, we have 6 master's programs. As you can see, they're listed there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk a little bit about each of them individually. But before I do that, just to add to what Kyriaki was saying earlier about added value, within our MA programs, we look at our MA students as a body. So you will all be doing different courses, but we give you input similar as well to help you build a community as postgraduate students. So throughout your studies, we'll have MA Open seminars, which essentially follow the pathway of a full-time master's student. And we have these seminars that talk about how to deal critically with the literature, how to think about knowledge and what that means, and how you can investigate knowledge, ethics that relates to this type of investigation, setting up your research practice or study that you will have to do for your dissertation. And then at the end, we have one seminar that shares the findings of people's studies. So that helps to disseminate the impact that your study will have, not just for your setting, but also potentially for other settings. We have PG tips sessions where, particularly in the first trimester, they're informal sessions to help you settle in, ask us questions about specific topics, and they run for about 5 weeks in the evenings to give everyone the opportunity to attend. And we also have a virtual learning site where everything related to our postgraduate students is housed. So it's like a one-stop shop where you can go to find out anything you might need for your studies. So now to look at each of these in general, or in particular, the first one, Kyriaki just talked about the Pgce. So you do your undergraduate degree, you want to be a qualified teacher, you do your Pgce. The Masters in Professional Practice is the Masters you can use to top up to your actual full MA. Go to the next slide, please, Kyriaki. So the professional practice is a Masters you can do. You can come in and do it straight away, or you can do it as a top-up. If it's a top-up, you have fewer modules to do because you're using your Pgce as part of the Masters. If you're doing it from the very beginning, it's a flexible program. It gives a choice of modules. It chooses from the other different Masters programs we have. So if you're not sure that you want to specialize in something, this is the kind of Masters that you could choose because it gives you variety. And then within your assessments, you can then specialize in terms of your context. This is where the real personalization allows for this. So your module choice, your assessment choice, your dissertation choice, it's more open on the professional practice than on the other specific Masters. All of the modules are shared with other education awards. So you do have to therefore engage with other students who have very different beliefs and they're coming from a very different standpoint. And that just helps to challenge you and it creates great engagement within our sessions. Thanks, Kyriaki. So the next Masters we have is MA Education with 2 pathways. The pathways being Early Childhood Studies and Leadership and Management. The Leadership Management pathway is led by Dr. Mahmoud Emira, and the Early Childhood Studies is led by Dr. Lone Hatting. So in general, across all of these pathways, again, it's interdisciplinary because they share modules. So you'll have people from Early Childhood Studies background and interest, and also people from Leadership and Management and Education interest, sharing a module in particular on education and society. So that kind of cross-pollination is really a fantastic element and a great added value really of our Masters programs, because you're not just with people who are only thinking the same as you, and you're with others who think differently and challenge your thinking, which is what Masters education is about. There are very strong links between theory and practice. Everything we do, we don't just tell you about theories and engage with theories, but we get you to think, what does that mean for you? So it's all about your context. We don't specify what you should be thinking. Our Masters programs in general, but these in particular, develop strong research expertise in a collegial environment. The MA in Early Childhood Studies has frequently had students go to Denmark to do a forest school trip, which has helped them to think about what they want to do for their dissertation. More specifically, is the next slide, please, Kyriaki. Within the Leadership and Management, we enable and empower students to effect change. And this is what it's about. Kyriaki spoke earlier about our students being change experts, and this is it. This is what you're doing also in your master's. We want you to be able to go back to your context and be able to make a difference, and also be confident that that difference you're making is a good difference to implement. In early childhood studies, you're looking at interrogating perspectives of childhood. So challenging what is standard or what is expected or believed within your context. Is that the same all around the world? Is that different? What can change? What do you need to think about? So they look at the pedagogy of critical reflection, ethics as well, and democracy, all within that award. Thank you, Kyriaki. We have an MA Inclusive Education, which is led by Dr. Helen Curran, and this is Helen is one of my colleagues who has one of the impact case studies that Kyriaki spoke about earlier. The Inclusive Education Masters has a really strong focus on developing skills and knowledge in inclusive education. So this is a very wide view, if you like, of inclusive education. So it talks about inclusion in terms of, we have SEN, we have special educational needs coordinators tend to take this master's as well. Dyslexia, it's very wide. They're just some of the key ones that feed into this master's. They look at exploring the philosophical, ethical, and legal aspects that impact provision, and what is required, and how is that actually happening in practice, and what can you do to help that work better within the context that you're in. You develop your professional practice and expertise in specialist areas of SEN, which is special educational needs. Thank you, Kyriaki. Our next master's is MA Counselling and Psychotherapy Practice, led by Dr. Mike Sims. Now, in order to take this, you need to have taken a qualified counselling course, and you need to have some experience as a counsellor. The beauty of this course in particular is that it's distance learning. So we have students from all around the world accessing this course. Granted, with different time zones, that can be challenging in some cases for some students, but we do try as best we can to ensure that the times where we have online sessions, that it does try to fit in. So nobody's up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to access a course, but all of them are recorded, so you can also view them later on should you wish. It's very flexible. It tailors your specific interest within your own practice. It builds on your context again, and it does help to develop research expertise in counselling and psychotherapy. We have a number of our very recent graduates actually have applied for and been accepted onto doctoral programs since completing this award. You explore the philosophical, theoretical, ethical, and legal components of the counselling world, and you develop your skills and your expertise and your knowledge within a specialist area through doing your dissertation. And the next slide, please, Kyriaki. And the final master's program we have is the MA TESOL, Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages, and I'm currently the award leader for that program. I have about 20 years experience in language teaching, and as Kyriaki mentioned earlier, you may not want to be a teacher, but you may start out with that idea and you could move to something else, which is kind of what I have done. Started as a language teacher, became a language teacher trainer after doing a master's similar to this one, and now I'm actually in higher education and leading on different programs. Our TESOL program is a little bit different to an awful lot of the others in that we actually give you a placement. So you don't have to come with teaching experience. If you come and you've never taught a day in your life, that's okay. We'll bring you in, we will help you to understand what you need to do and what you need to learn to become an English language teacher. You will get into schools, and actually for people who don't live in English speaking countries, it's actually fascinating to sit in a classroom where there are multiple languages being spoken and the teacher is teaching in English, because I know that's something that's very different. Having taught in Japan and having faced a classroom of 30 Japanese where all of you speak Japanese and I'm the only person speaking English, that has its own set of challenges. But if you have a class of 30 students and there are 5 different nationalities there, again, that's a bigger challenge. So they're all quite unique, but the placement helps you to see those differences and to appreciate what you could do were you in that context. You build context-specific professional development too. So we look at all of the theories and the practices in language teaching and consider them in light of where you intend to teach or where you are teaching. You become much better in what you do. Your employability prospects will be better, and also there will be great networking opportunities within the course. Again, this course, alongside our other masters, develops a strong research expertise, and numerous of our alumni have actually gone to do PhD study as well. So next slide, please, Kyriaki. To sum up about our master's programs, these are central to all of them. So we have a focus on application of theory to practice. This is not about coming and learning a lot about theories and then just going, okay, bye-bye. We want you to understand, what does that mean for you in your real context, in your real workplace? Can you actually apply that theory? We will give you placement opportunities when it's required. They are part of the TESOL program, but on the other programs, if you feel that it would be useful and we feel that it would be helpful for you, we will do our best to find you a placement. I think the highlight of our master's programs is that there are no exams. And I know a lot of international students are used to doing exams. We don't have them. All of our assessments are based on your context. So you adapt the assessment to focus on what you want. So there's a real personalization here. So for example, in TESOL, if you really like the idea of vocabulary, then within each of your assessments, you can have a focus on vocabulary. It'll be a slightly different focus each time because you'll be looking at it through a different lens, but your basis could be vocabulary. We have small class sizes which allow for increased student participation. You're not going to be lost in a huge group. You'll be part of a smaller group, and that helps to build good networking as well. And numbers of our alumni, they're still in touch because they knew each other so well. And as I have pointed out a couple of times, our courses allow for a really strong research focus, and it's a very good foundation for PhD study. Speaking of PhD study, we also do have PhD programs in the School of Education. So we have a professional doctorate, which is essentially like a taught PhD. There are elements where you attend lectures, and then there is a substantial project at the end of it. Or you can do the full-on doctorate, which is research-based. Sorry, getting tongue-tied here. Our Professor Charlotte Chatterton and Dr. Agnieszka Bates are in charge of both of those programs. So that's the end of everything we do at postgraduate level. So thank you very much. Kyriaki.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Roisin. And I think we can end the presentation here. Hopefully it's been a useful introduction to the School of Education, but also to Bath Spa University and to our portfolio of courses. But this is now your opportunity to ask any questions of us. So over to you. I shall stop presenting if that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. はい、それではですね、バーススパ大学のプレゼンテーションが終わりましたので、これから、質問の時間に入っていきたいと思うんですけれども、もしですね、ご質問がある場合は、YouTube ご覧の方については、YouTube のチャットボックスからご質問いただけたらと思います。Zoom から、ご覧いただいている方については、Zoom のチャットボックスの方からですね、ご質問をしていただけたらと思いますので、よろしくお願いいたします。はい。So far, we still haven't received questions, but can I ask a couple questions? Because as a consultant, we receive questions about education degree. Yeah, is that okay?
Please do, yes.
Yeah. And actually, I think some education courses require full-time, work experience before applying for the master's in education. In your master's course, do you require full-time, working experience?
No, Hiroshi, we do have 2 PG certs which we haven't mentioned here because they won't be applicable. But the rest of our programs, we welcome people with experience, obviously, but also those who don't have experience, because we can help them to gain that experience, not quite gain the experience, but gain the understanding of that experience through meeting and talking with their colleagues who do have that experience. So it just helps. It actually helps at master's level if everybody comes from a slightly different background, because they challenge each other in their thinking. So we don't require it. It's helpful, but not essential.
はい、ありがとうございます。Thank you very much for the answer. ありがとうございます。はい、そうですね、エデュケーションの修士課程において、職歴が必要とするコースが、イギリス、結構あったりするんですけれども、バーススパ大学において、必要なのかどうかっていうご質問だったんですけれども、バーススパ大学においてはですね、基本的に、必要はないということで、コースに入ってから、他の生徒さんといろいろ知識を共有したりとか、もちろんコースからいろいろ知識を得ることによってですね、経験ない方でも入っていただけるということですので、ご興味がありましたら、ぜひご質問を、していただけたらと思います。はい。そうですね。で、actually, we received a question from Zoom, and I'm going to read out a question. And then I am a study student at the university now, and I'm concerning if I should apply for study abroad program or postgraduate after graduation. I don't know if you know, but do you provide education module for study abroad program too? Also, do you have any scholarship for international student or student in Department of Education?
Okay, I could probably answer that one. So I'm unclear if this individual is a student with us at the moment or a student abroad, but I'll answer it in its widest sense. So we have a team called Go Global, and we enable students, as I mentioned before, to visit a number of different countries and to gain experiences. And there's a number of different schemes with our Go Global. The government has launched a touring scheme. So if you're a student with us, you could probably take account of the touring scheme, take advantage of that. But there's opportunities where we, and we have partners around the world where we can do this. We also have something called the Global Citizenship Award. Now that's an award that you could take alongside your studies. And that gives you an opportunity to visit other institutions and do a semester abroad if you like. So there's great opportunities there. And the first point of contact would be our Go Global team. I don't know if they have a presence online, but they will be more than happy to answer any questions. With regard to scholarships for international students, often when there is an element of studying abroad, we do try and look on an annual basis to see if we can provide some support, but that changes on an annual basis, so it will have to be based on budgets at the time. The other thing that I would like to add is if you're looking at an undergraduate degree with us, all of our degrees are offered with a placement year, if you like. So what a placement year means is that you will do your first 2 years of study. You will then do a placement year, a work placement, if you like, and that can be either in the UK or it could also be work placements abroad. We do have students that decide to work abroad in their own context because they want to make their professional links there. And then they come back for that final year of study with us in their 3rd year, that becomes their 4th year. So their undergraduate degree becomes larger, but they do gain another year of experience, whether it's in the UK or abroad. I hope that's helpful information.
Okay, thank you. When students are doing a placement, do they get paid?
In the placement here, yes, yes. What happens is we have a wonderful career service. I haven't mentioned them. We have a wonderful career service at the university that supports them in finding paid placements in various sectors. And that's not just for the School of Education, but for all our degrees. So they're very engaged, and we find that the students that do go out and do a placement here, their prospects are obviously enhanced, because by the time they finish their university degree, they already have a year of experience behind them. So they're highly employable. So we do promote that route. So some of our students will come to us to do the standard 3 years. Some will come and do the placement here as well. So when you apply, you need to specify which one you would like to do. Our accelerated degree, which is only 2 years, does not have a placement. That's the only one that doesn't have a placement year, because the idea with that one is that you qualify quickly. But what we've done is we've included opportunities to work and take almost like little internships and research challenges in society and in organizations as part of it. They're not paid, but there's practical hands-on work experience that makes our students then highly employable.
Okay, thank you very much for the information. はい、そうですね、スタディアブロードのことについては、そうですね、Goグローバルチームですかね、にコンタクトをしていただくというのがいいのではないかなということのようですね。はい。で、奨学金によっても年によって変わるということのようですので、なんていうんですかね、明確なお答えができないような感じではあるんですけれども、はい、年によってそういった奨学金は変わるということです。また、学部でですね、ワークプレイスメントというものができまして、イギリスとか、もしくは海外でですね、仕事を得る、インターンシップのようなですね、できるということなんですけれども、そこで、実際の給料を受け取ったり、することもできるチャンスがあるということですね。先ほどご紹介された2年の、コース、2年間の学部のコースについては、そういったプレイスメントのオプションは入っていないということになるようですね。はい。はい。そうですね。So I have another question. Do you think postgraduate students also can get paid placement?
Yeah, Hiroshi, I have just answered that in the chat as well. Our postgraduate placements are not the same as the placement Kyriaki was talking about for undergraduate students. So usually it would be possibly, in terms of TESOL, it's maybe a day a week, but sometimes that depends on the school that we're sending them to. So it might just be for 2 or 3 hours each time they go. And it's a voluntary type of placement. They don't get paid for that. Some of the time they're just observing, some of the time they will be involved in the teaching, but the idea is to build up experience, and we don't pay for those placements.
So, and they are similar to what we have embedded within our teaching at undergraduate level. So within all our teaching and all the years of our studies, you will have opportunities to do these type of placements that Rasheen mentioned. So again, that link with the industry, but also there is the placement year where we will support you in finding paid employment during that time to then inform your studies before you come back for that final year of study. So there are different kinds of placements throughout your studies at undergraduate and postgraduate levels.
Okay, thank you. はい、そうですね、修士課程のプレイスメントについては基本的には、ボランティアとかですね、そういったようなものであれば、給料がないっていうようなものなんですけれども、そういったようなものであれば、利用が可能なものもあるというような、回答ですね。はい。And I think some Japanese students are worried if they can definitely get a placement in the UK. So, do you have any students who fail to get the placement opportunity during the undergraduate course? If they wish to get a placement, so all the students definitely can get a placement opportunity. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Sorry, do you want to answer, Kyriaki?
I was going to say, it depends what placements we're talking about here. If we're talking about the placements that are embedded within the course, yes, by default, absolutely all our students will get placements. We have a partnership office that helps with that. And as I said, we have a vast network of over 400 education settings that we work with. So, and the placements in the undergraduate area, but also the type of placement that Roisin was talking about with TESOL, they inform your studies. So we often, in the assessment, they need to reflect on what happened in the placement. So it's an integral part of their study. So there's not an issue at all. The paid placement here is a different one. That obviously, and Jamin, you would be the expert here in terms of whether, you know, I believe student visas do allow this because it is an integral part of the course. But also, you know, as I said, the career service would be very keen, and they are there to support every single student individually to make sure that they have everything they need for their studies.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. はい。そうですね、プレイスメントの機会がすべての生徒さんに確保されているのかっていう質問をしたんですけれども、そのコースの中に、そういったプレイスメントが組み込まれているということで、はい、そういった意味で基本的に、プレイスメントですね、その機会を得ることができないみたいなという方は、いないというようなことですので、はい、またそういったサポートもしっかりあるということですね。はい。As for TESOL, master's degree in TESOL, this course also doesn't require, full-time work experience, right?
No, we've had a lot of people join this course that have no experience at all, but are just interested in becoming language teachers. So it's absolutely fine. And that's part of the reason for the placement, because it gives them that little bit of experience that they don't have.
Okay, thank you. はい。TESOL のコースにつきまして。
Sorry to interrupt. What I would say though is we definitely would look for an interest in language teaching. So they would have to show us in their application why they are interested in becoming language teachers.
Okay, thank you. はい。TESOL のコースについては、こちらももちろん先ほどあった通り、職歴とかは必要なくて、でもなぜ英語の教師になりたいかというようなことをしっかりとですね、志望動機書の中に入れていただくということが、大事になってくるということになりますね。はい。そうですね。And can I also ask about the Pgce?
Of course.
Sometimes, yeah, thank you. Sometimes we get inquiry from a student who graduated from a Japanese university undergraduate course. And then sometimes we get inquiry about like they want to become a teacher in England, in the UK. So for those people, is it possible for them to take the Pgce after graduating Japanese university degree?
Yes, absolutely. So the Pgce, the recruitment to the Pgce is very tightly regulated by the UK government because it aims to fulfill a need in the UK. So it requires an undergraduate degree. It doesn't really matter where it's from as long as it's a recognized undergraduate degree. It requires you to have it's the GCSE or equivalent in maths, English, and science if it's primary, or maths and English in if it's going to be secondary, because there's a Pgce primary and a Pgce secondary. And there's a number of little checks that we have to do. So there's a DBS check. So that's a criminal records check, because we're putting students in, our students in with very young children, young and vulnerable children. So there's a criminal records check, which is standard, and also there's a declaration or a sort of fitness to practice in terms of health, just making sure that the person that's going to become a teacher and be in a classroom is healthy. But we support colleagues, we support students that have a number of disabilities that do still want to become teachers, so that's not a huge problem. So it is an undergraduate degree or equivalent from whatever education system that is. So if the undergraduate degree from Japan is the equivalent of an undergraduate degree in England, then that's not a problem at all. So yes, we're very happy to have you come along.
Thank you. So if they complete the Pgce, so they will be qualified as a teacher in the UK, and then they can.
Yes. So if you complete a Pgce, the Pgce we have is called Pgce with QTS, with qualified teacher status. So what that means is the Pgce is the academic award, the academic qualification, and the QTS is the professional qualification. If you complete that course, you get both. So you get professional recognition, academic recognition. The Pgce is automatically, the academic awards are automatically recognized across all countries. The QTS is very specific to England and is recognized in England. But what you tend to do, and there's many governments do this, will say, well, if you're qualified in this country, then you can also qualify in this, it's a matter of paperwork and application. So if you're not a qualified teacher in Japan, for example, you may wish to try and translate the QTS into the Japanese equivalent if you're going back to teach. So I know we do have international students that then go back to their countries, and there's an agreement with the countries. They go through paperwork most of the time to have it recognized locally, but it's very much an English qualification, an English professional qualification that enables you to teach in any school in England.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
はい、そうですね。イギリスで先生になるためのPgce というコースなんですけれども、そうですね。このコースを受けるためにそのイギリスでのその学士号をですね、アンダーグラジュエットディグリーなので、日本の大学を卒業するとかですね、あとは日本でのその大学の卒業資格があれば、イギリスでもですね、この Pgce というコースを、受けることができて、で最終的にその、QTS と呼ばれる、資格ですね、を取得をして、でそれでイギリスで働くことが、先生としてですね、働くことができるというものですね。はい。なので、そうですね、もしイギリスで先生として働きたいなというふうに考えている場合は、ぜひ、バーススパ大学の Pgce も検討をしていただけたらと思います。はい。
Can I add one more thing? Sorry. If you want to become a primary school teacher, it doesn't matter what your undergraduate degree is in, as long as it's an undergraduate degree. So it can be any subject whatsoever. If you want to become a secondary school teacher, let's say you want to be a teacher of maths or a teacher of geography or a teacher of history, at least 50% of your undergraduate degree needs to be in that subject. Okay, so for the secondary, if you want to teach that older year group, then your undergraduate degree needs to have at least 50% in the subject you wish to specialize in. Okay? Wonderful.
はい。そうですね、イギリスの、プライマリースクールですね、の場合は、その学士号の、科目については関係ないということなんですけれども、セカンダリースクールで働きたいという場合は、その学士号の、50% の分量については、その、教えたい科目ですね、と関係している必要があるということになるとのことですね。はい。そうですね、それでは、ちょっと時間が来てしまいましたので、本日はですね、こちらでこのウェビナーを終了させていただきたいと思います。I'm sorry, this is the time to finish today's webinar. So thank you very much for your time today. And then, so thank you very much for your very informative presentation. And it was really great. Thank you.
An absolute pleasure. And thank you to all colleagues that have facilitated this, but also the audience worldwide. Thank you so much. And I hope we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. 本日はご参加いただきましてありがとうございました。それでは失礼いたします。Thank you very much. See you.